Hey y'all, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another video. Today I'm here with Queen and Jay. We are going to talk about Black women and our relationship to hair. Thanks for sitting down to talk to me, y'all.
Thanks for having us, inviting us.
First of all, I wanted to talk to y'all because I listened to your podcast. And
cool.
I love it.
Thank you.
You know, sometimes I was telling Queen earlier, sometimes I listen to a podcast and I'm like, I don't like these people.
Same. We listen to podcasts and we feel the same way.
Yeah. It's like, I don't agree with them. I don't like them.
Or you agree, but you don't like them.
Yeah.
Like, how do you?
Yes. And so I really, not only did I agree with you, but I liked you.
Aw, thank you.
All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was I think the natural hair movement has been so important. And it's so interesting how even women who aren't even on the internet like that have been affected by it and feel good in embracing their natural texture. Mm-hmm. But sometimes I get concerned because I feel like the threes, you know, that three category still gets elevated above the kinkier, coilier textures. Mm-hmm. And I worry that we are just replacing one harmful beauty standard with another harmful beauty standard.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it's is being replaced per se. I think the same values that were highlighted in the past when we were aiming to assimilate and be accepted in this country by straightening our hair and things like that, I think a lot of those same values have carried over into the movement. And so in the colonized world, whiteness and that look is valued, and that has seeped into our bones and shit. And so in many of the things we do, even in revolutionary spaces and movements, that white supremacy is still there. So the job of those of us participating in any kind of resistance or movement or whatever is to constantly check our own white supremacy and check what are we doing within this space, and are we harming one another? Because I think what's most important to a lot of us as Black women, who are often, you know, things are happening to us from the outside that we're reacting to, but I think that the most important piece of that is what are we doing to each other? How are we treating each other? How are we healing and loving each other? Or how are we hurting each other? And so that piece of this movement right now is something that should constantly be challenged and analyzed.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, like when you have these conversations about like texturism and things like that, is a lot of the language that is tied to the 3C hair is very different from the language that's tied to like 4C hair. Right. So you see words like dry and brittle, damaged,
brittle,
all of these things.
It's all negative.
It's like it's actually on the product.
It's on the Black girl hair bottle. It's like, actually my hair is not damaged. My hair is 4C. My hair absorbs oil and water and all these things differently.
So like if we also examine that and examine the language that's attached to 4C here versus like a 3C here person and all of that, I think that's another way to tackle the white supremacy that Jay was just talking about. Like, why would you even, you're in this natural hair movement and you're still talking about the tighter hair, the tighter coil, kinky hair, whatever language you use, in this way that's like very like vile and like toxic to people who have that hair. So like, you're even if saying you love it, you're still telling me something is wrong with my hair because my curl pattern is like this, or the way that my hair absorbs water is like this. And it's just like, get that faulty ass language out of here. Like, get rid of that.
I feel bad sometimes because I do feel like I have 4C hair, and I do feel like it is harder to manage my 4C hair than it is to manage straight hair. Right. And I think that there is so much baggage attached to like manageability and like ease. Yeah. And sometimes it's like, is that white supremacy, or am I allowed to say it is harder to style?
Yeah, we're part of the 4C game. So the things you're saying, I live, still live, I'm still like, damn, you know? Yeah. But I think it's because we haven't spent the time to like figure out the ways that our hair can be manageable in those ways, because we spent so much time straightening it and doing all these things to assimilate and doing these things to appease white supremacy that we haven't even examined the other things that we could do to our hair to First, it's like, what is manageable? You know, like, what are those things? Because those standards are also based on white supremacy. But then on the other end, it's just like, can I just go outside with my hair uncombed? You know, and that's something I cannot do.
Right.
Let's, you know, be serious about it. That's something I can't do, but that's because of still this white supremacy.
It's something you can't do because you're not comfortable or because of the other
It's both.
stuff.
It's both. So I'm not comfortable. And then on the other hand, it's like I know the world is going to perceive me in this other way. Like my hair is not done. Like let's just think about like Blue Ivy and how we were like, even myself was like, whoa. And then one day it was just like, wait a minute.
Because we're not used to it.
Yeah.
We're not used to it. We are not used to
Yeah.
seeing people's hair uncombed. And I mentioned in another video, we associate, especially the little black girls, their hair being tied up in the little bobos and all of that.
That's done.
We
Yeah.
associate it with care, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody cares about you. That's why they snatch up your edges like that.
Right, because neat, when it comes to black girl hair, neat and done and kempt is associated with it being laid and pulled taut and straight. So like even if you have kinky hair, a lot of, if you think about some of the beginnings of the natural hair movement when girls were wearing their afro, they would still have a band around the front so that you can pull that front edges tight and then you have your afro in the back. That, I call it like it's like a fucked with afro. There's nothing wrong with it, no shade to it, but it's still one of those things where it's like, okay, this front is laid and so the rest is okay. So when we see little black girls or even ourselves in our obsession with edges and the social currency surrounded with edges and like I'm 4C and my crochet is growing out right now, so I have a 4C afro under my natural storm white hair that I wear all the time. But in my head I'm like, okay, well let me lay this down. I got my, what's that shit we use? Edge booster. What is the brand? It doesn't matter. And my
none of them
pins, none of them work. My bobby pins and all that because neat. I don't mind that my crochet is growing out, but neat looks laid down and pulled taut. But to your point about what we're used to, I think that a lot of us were not taught how to take care of our natural hair. Like there are hundreds of years in terms of what we were allowed to see, right? Of white girl hair care. So in advertisements, in hair salon, in education, and all the TV and media that we've consumed has all been dedicated to taking care of white hair. Or straight hair. We know that there are other groups of people who have straight hair. Or even curls. Curls meant 3C. Curls meant loose and you could still put your finger through it. Those were curls. And so it's not, I think that the guilt that some of us have about feeling like, oh, my 4C hair is not as manageable, is we were not taught how to manage it. So it feels harder because a lot of the skills that we have, we learned in our grown adult lives as we're doing our hair and shit like that. So, can I curse?
Yes.
Oh. I think I did already. Right. I know we did. But, so I think that we were always taught how to care for our hair, but in what state?
Right.
You know, a lot of us are well educated in what to do with a perm, right? But now that's not what we're doing, and we know that like our parents wore afros and things like that, but that was very different than the versatility of I have an afro 24/7 and I wear it in different styles and different ways because that's just how it grows out of my head, and it's not always, it is by default a political statement because we're not allowed to exist, right? But it's not always, it was not the intent. Like I just woke up and my hair is this way and I'm just gonna let it be. We're just not, it's still not an accepted thing for everybody.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that the baby hair look has now been appropriated.
Yeah. Well, it has been, we're from the Bronx, right? So there were white Puerto Ricans rocking baby hair in the Bronx since we were kids. So that's not a new thing. But I will say, because that was, I would count that among the urban cultural markers, right? So if you're from an urban neighborhood, even like in LA, I don't know if the word, a lot of the Chola girls wear baby hairs and things like that. So that's something that different urban groups of girls throughout the U.S. have been doing, but I agree with you. A fucking Kardashian would not have been rocking baby hair.
And it's on like fashion runways, fashion runways.
Right. But I remember back in the day, watching.
But even then, it was like when you talk about like, for lack of a better word, excuse if we got it wrong, but like Chula girls and stuff like that. Even then, that was like counterculture. Like it wasn't
exactly.
Like,
I was saying back in the day
piece.
when J-Lo had first come out with when she was doing like her fashion line or whatever, and MTV did that whole behind the scenes. There's this moment where she's like telling the makeup people, like the hair people, you know, baby hairs, like can you give them like baby hair? So there's this moment where she as a white, damn near white presenting or TV, we call them TV Italians, just like
I call them honey white.
Ooh.
Yeah, so like we know that these are people of color, but a white executive would be like, oh, she could play Italian, right?
Yeah.
So we're watching this TV Italian explain to like a whole Anglo-Saxon how to make like baby hair, and to your point of it being like counterculture, like these are things that were transported now into the mainstream, and like you said, the Kardashians and fucking on runways now are with the baby hairs and shit like that was ours, you know.
Jennifer Lopez is so interesting to me. Her racial transformations, how she dips in and dips out, is so fascinating. Yeah. All right, let's talk about childhood trauma. Okay, so I feel like
just jump right into that.
It's always right there anyway.
I just assume that if you are a black woman, especially before, you know, there was a broad embrace of natural hair and you have a certain kind of hair texture, there's a little bit of trauma there. And so I'm just wondering if you have childhood trauma, maybe I shouldn't assume, and if you did have some childhood trauma, how do you navigate that, work through it so you can come to a place of loving your hair as an adult?
Yes, a lot of the trauma have it.
So you start.
I have a lot of hair trauma. I will say that we all know, if you grew up with 4C hair, you know what some of that trauma could be or could look like. But a lot of it had to do for me with, you know, you get to be a teenager and doing your hair yourself, and it's how do I make it look in the way that is cute? And cute is not 4C. Even if you had a perm, cute was not like your 4C edges are now like growing out. And if you're a certain type of black girl, you're not in the salon as often as maybe you should be. And I'm not a I am now, but I wasn't a hair doing bitch. So it wasn't like I was there touching my own shit up or whatever. So there was those feelings of it not working. There was when I was a kid and my hair before I got a perm, not being the easiest to manage. Okay, you get one hairstyle, that's it. I remember there was this girl, and people from where I'm from know like this girl or whatever. It was this girl and she had like zigzag parts, and I was like, she got zigzag parts, yo. Like my mom was a single mom with 3 kids. She not giving me and my sister zigzag parts. It was just that natural hair, 4C hair took this extra level of care that like you had to be a certain type of person to have. Like I could see that, so-and-so's parents, like that's next level care. Or she had an older sister that was like giving her the zigzags.
You know, I was thinking earlier today of the classism that intersects with the type of hair that you have. Like you mentioned earlier, you know, we prize laid hair, done hair, but not only does it take a certain amount of time to be able to have laid hair and done hair, but if you get a perm, you can't do that stuff yourself. You got to go to the salon. You got to have somebody who can take you to the salon.
Every 6 weeks, you got to get like a touch up.
And so that is only accessible if you have a certain amount of money or if your parents have a certain amount of money. And we are never considering like the judgments that we pass on people who don't have laid hair, done hair, but it's all kinds of other stuff that affects their ability to achieve a look. It's not just that not that they just don't want to do it. It's that do you even have the ability to acquire that look that we are obsessed with?
And what certain type of hair means to different people. So if you live in a certain community, for me, as a kid, it was like, the zigzags were popping. For me, as a teenager, it was like, okay, certain type of weave was like, that's the expensive weave. Or if you had, even for certain groups of us, if your hair was stiff, right, but you had mad gel in it and it was perfect and it's the perfect color and it's the perfect cut and all that stuff, that's cool. But once that hits maybe the internet and once other black communities perhaps are looking at my community and saying, that's a bit ghetto, or that's not cool. Look at that. There's not enough balance in that. So like the way that even we look at each other's individual like communities of what's fly hair in this community, and that shifted a bit with like the internet and a lot of us are now doing the same thing. But back in the day, how you was rocking your hair in this like little Jamaican corner of the Bronx would be different than how girls in Brooklyn maybe would look in or queens that was on their own stuff.
And I think it's because of that a lot of my hair trauma isn't until I like become a teenager and start going out, like not being in the places where my parents told me I could be, or the places where my parents brought me to. So like I grew up in a house with a lot of sisters. I am a doing ass hair bitch. Like everyone, like that's the house I was in. My mother could braid, so like we always kind of like had our hair done. But also being a 4C girl, so like my mother kind of like doing hair in my house was like a weekend event because I have like 5 sisters, and it's like, okay, you know, like that type of thing. So hair never was like something that was daunting to me until maybe like high school and shit like that, where it was like hair was also tied to beauty in a different way. Yep. More so than like, oh, like, you know, a little girl, I'm cute. Everyone thinks I'm cute. Right. But now I'm like becoming a woman. Right. And I'm supposed to be attracting people and like all of these things. So there's other things that I'm thinking about now when I do my hair and when I think about my hair in that way. So that's when I first started to kind of like get hair trauma. I used to play sports a lot, so I have braids all the time. So because I have braids, people would always thought I didn't have any hair because my hair is always in extensions, and it's like I actually do have hair. The assumption is always you don't have hair for any
which
black
is
girl.
Fine.
For all,
which is fine. The currency being like if you're a bald-headed scallywag, like that's a word. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying?
So so it was always assumed that I didn't have any hair because my hair was always in extensions and stuff, but that's because I played sports. So then when I would wear my hair out, it's like, oh my God, you do have hair. And it's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What would you think I was attaching the braids to though? Like what? It makes no sense. And I still kind of get that now because my hair is mostly kept away. And we actually had an episode on our podcast and we were talking about how it's just easier for us to just kind of just have protective styles all the time because just that conversation of like how I upkeep my hair and like all that, it's just easier for me to just like have protective styles all the time.
Totally. But I even question like the obsession with, do you have hair? Like, but what if I don't? Like exactly. And then the like Beyonce every once in a while will
I hate those.
And Mama Tina will post it or something.
The reveal.
The reveal, and then it's
not a bald-headed scallywag.
And then it becomes 20 blog posts of look at Beyonce's hair up under those wigs, and it's like, what is the obsession?
There is a I don't know which part of white supremacy or slavery this came from, but that we can't grow hair, right? So that because our hair is kinky, according to the white gaze, we must not be able to grow hair, which is also why there's an obsession with shrinkage. And those fucking shrinkage videos.
I hate the word shrinkage.
Yes, right? So you have your fro, it's wash day, and now on the gram, we're going to put a nice video of me stretching it out so you can see how long it is.
Length check.
Who are you talking to? What is this for?
You know how hair works.
Right. I hate the word shrinkage. That's just how your hair looks.
Yeah.
And that's your hair is actually at its healthiest when it bounces back to its curl pattern. Right. Like it's healthy hair.
That valuing of like, look, it's long. Because again, the value is white supremacy and like white beauty standards. So length is important to show like, look, you know, that even some of the ways that length check is framed is like, look, we could grow hair. Look, we know that. Who are you talking to? Who is this for? And so that to me has always been an exercise in white supremacy is this demonstrating that one, I'm a person who can grow hair and that matters. And two, look at how long it can get, and look at how, if I take it out of this shrinkage thing, which makes me so sad, there's a whole thing about, shrinkage is such a problem. Yeah. If I can take it out of that, then you'll see how valuable I am and how what I've been doing matters and that it's okay that I went natural. But the other piece of that is there are a lot of people, black women in particular, who deal with fibroids, it's supposed to have alopecias, all kinds of things, and we're putting all of this social currency in. Do you have hair? How much hair do you have? How thick is your hair? How close are your parts together? Like all of that stuff. And I think it plays into the way that we engage a little bit with baldness as well. Like a lot of for women and men, but a lot of our brothers who we see with the spray paint hairlines, which is also not a problem, but there are people shaming them for, why are you painting your hairline? Or why are you, if that's what makes you comfortable, paint your hairline. Right. I'm gonna wear this white hair, you paint your hairline, everybody rock out. But the way that we shame people who are balding or bald, or like, that's just another thing I think that we should be exploring in this hair conversation.
And back to the edges thing, like, you ain't got no edges, where your edges out, your edges pulled out, and it's like, I
used to be one of those people though, who was very like, she ain't got no edges, like she, you know, like whatever, and it's just like everybody has these different hair stories. Like I had to learn that everybody has these different hair stories, everybody has these different things, and it's not that serious. It's really
and we are reinforcing all of this stuff, reinforcing insecurities in ourselves and in each other by reproducing some of those scripts about where your edges at, why your hair is so thin, and all of that kind of stuff. Let's talk about femininity. I think one of the reasons why there is such a preoccupation, and that sounds negative, but one of the reasons why Black women spend so much time on our hair and talking about hair is because of the association between hair and femininity. And because historically we have been masculinized in a way, like stripped of femininity in a way, we cling to hair, you know, people say your hair is your crown and glory, and like, and all of that stuff. So I wonder, how can we decouple what your hair looks like from your worth as a person, a femme, a woman, a non-binary person? Like, how can we just be like, this is not, what did India say? I am not my hair. How do we get to that point?
I think that a lot of it has to do with like gender norms and how none of that shit matters, and how problematic a lot of that stuff is. And so I think, to me, that's such like a loaded question that is so embedded into like what makes somebody feminine, why does femininity matter,
why does it matter?
Like all of those things are very, it's just intertwined in so much. And I think that the harder we work to dismantle like white supremacist patriarchal capitalism, and we say patriarchal capitalism because the patriarchy is heavily steeped in that shit, and I think as we break that down, we break down some of those gender norms, but also like gender traditions, like things of feeling like, oh, it's important that you don't be a bald-headed scallywag. And some people are bald-headed of any gender.
Bald-headed doesn't mean you're a scallywag.
That too.
You know what I mean?
That's
it's okay. You can be bald-headed.
You can be bald-headed. So I think that there has to be a dedication to dismantling that system as a whole, to separate yourself from some of that, because I really believe that femininity is not always tied, or should not be tied, to like your womanness, or like, it's just, we all express that in so many different ways, and we should really be allowed to do that. I have a very deep voice. Well, maybe not very deep. I have a deep voice, and deep voices are often associated with masculinity. I'm tall, and I sometimes feel too big, right? Just like, you know, I have a deep voice. Sometimes I feel too grand, and so I like maybe a man to be bigger so that I feel a certain way. That's a little bit like psychotic, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure that's
very normal.
Problematic word,
but I mean,
but it's normal because it's been steeped. But like, there's nothing wrong with me having a deep voice. There's nothing wrong with me having huge feet. There's nothing wrong with those things, and I am a woman person, and like, that's just who I am and who I identify as, and so it shouldn't be, there shouldn't be all of these physical markers that we're so tied to, that there are people who look like me who identify as men, and that is okay, you know what I mean, and are men, and I just feel like once we like get rid of like a lot of that shit, we'll be able to separate ourselves from all these things that actually burden us. Right? Like, people think they're fun traditions. Like there will be someone watching this who thinks that we don't want them to delight in getting their hair done or looking cute or feminine. Like, all of that's cool, but we shouldn't be oppressing those things upon one another. Right. That's when it gets to be,
and those things shouldn't be happening to appease the system. So that's for me like the piece where it's like, Because for myself, I did come to a point where it was like, okay, like, why do I wear protective style so much? Or why do I feel this way about hair? When I realized it was because of things that I liked for myself and I enjoyed for myself, and I wasn't doing these things to appease what the norm says I'm supposed to look like, or things like that, is when I got more comfortable with myself and my relationship with my own hair. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, once I figure that out, or like, I guess came around to realize, like, no, me wearing a wig or my natural hair or whatever is not about self-hate, is not about all of these other shit that other people try to say it is. It's like, this is what I like to do. Like, I change my hairstyle literally every month. I cannot do that without a wig. I cannot do that without extensions. My hair would fall out if I was to like treat my hair and manipulate my hair that often. But this is something that I like. So it's like, this is something I'm doing to appease me and not appease the system that says how I'm supposed to look and stuff like that.
I think Jay brought up a really important point. Is I want to make it clear that I don't have a desire to judge people for their choices. I understand that we are all navigating this really horrible, fucked up system, and that there are consequences for opting out. And I understand that we are making choices to try to get some modicum of safety, to feel safe, to try to elevate ourselves in these systems, wherever you work, whether you work in the corporate world or you work for yourself, or maybe if you feel like a certain hairstyle is more attractive to the kinds of people that you want to partner, you might be worried that you're not going to be able to find a partner if your hair does certain stuff. So it is more than just our individual choices. It is structural. And so I did just want to underscore, like, I'm not judging you. Look, my hair like this. I'm not judging you. Like,
and I want to, like, when it comes to like just our lives and the choices that the career path that I've chosen and things like that are also decisions I've made because of how I want to look. And how I want to control how I look. And we know we've taken pay cuts, and we know that those things have greatly affected our lives. But there's people who don't fuck with us, people who think we're too much. But I know that this is how I want to look, and this is how I feel happy looking. So I had to make those choices too because I opted in. So it's kind of like a two-way street. Like whether you opt out or opt in, there still are sacrifices you are making.
People have commented on work we've been in or our work and said, "Oh, about me, she would be such a pretty girl. I'm sure she's a pretty girl under that. I don't know why does she do that, or why does." There was a whole, on one YouTube video, just a whole section of like hundreds of comments about how disturbed people were. And these are other black people for the most part. And for me, I don't mind a good joke about my hair. Like, be funny, okay? I love funny. Be fucking funny. It was one, I don't read them anymore, but it was one I was like, that was funny. But others was like, oh, you guys are really just like commiserating and celebrating your disgust with my appearance. And that the way that I do Black Girl has nothing to do with you. Has nothing to do with you. And I think that there's, of course, this feeling for a lot of us, people of color, that you represent your race when you walk out the door. I am comfortable with there are Black girls like me, I'm comfortable with representing them. You know what I'm saying?
But it's so funny that even in Black spaces, that you are supposed to show up a certain way and represent a certain way instead of being one type of person. Like, we are not a monolith. We say this all the time. We come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and hairstyles. Why do you not want all of that represented? I always wonder about that.
Because people are constantly thinking about, how do we look to white people? At the end of the day, at the final, once you beat all the bosses, when you get to the big bad boss at the top, who's keeping you from whatever, whether it be your next million or billion, someone is thinking, oh, some white person is going to deny me because of either me or my association with a certain type of blackness. And a lot of us are disturbed by the freedom that we see in others. It's like, whoa, I would never wear that color. I don't think that I could live like that. Why would you do it?
It's like the scene in Django when he was like, there's a nigga on that nigga.
Look at that nigga's on a horse.
Like, what?
Like, so it's like, I see that in other people. It's like, I know this person doesn't hate me, but they're so disturbed that I have the audacity to do something that people might not like or they haven't seen before. And because I think sometimes it's shocking to me because we live in New York and because we have been living this type of I want to look how I look, like at work and everywhere. We've been dedicated to that for a while now. Yeah. Sometimes it's shocking to me. I watch, we stay watching like hair care videos and shit like that. And I'll watch somebody who just tried a new style and be like, yeah, I was really nervous to try this color, and it'll be like light brown. and me and her wow. Yeah. Okay, so it's like, so now I'm thinking, so that's the type of person perhaps that sees me in my white hair and is taken aback and disgusted and offended by it. So it's like, okay, girl, I see you, I understand you. You may be trying to
I got some 33 braids and I was like, I don't know. Like 33 is like Auburn. Just like, I don't know how I look. Like, I don't want to record a video. Like, I don't know. Like, and then like the feedback was really good. And I was like, this is great. This is great. But I was like, why am I so, what is the fear? What, like, I'm trying to work through myself. And it's so funny. I talk to other like public people and like, professional feminists about all this stuff all the time of like, I've read all the books. I sit down and have these conversations. I know in my mind what is working, but still I have to say to myself, it's okay. Like it's gonna be fine. Yeah. It's okay.
Because we're pushing against something.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. Constantly, no matter how much we make it look easy, it is uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah. Like we're just us being here, looking these three different ways. Yeah. As Black women, we are pushing against something, so it's always going to feel that way. Like even when I change my hair all the time, sometimes I change my hair, and it's always something like different, and I'm like, does this look, like just like that's kind of just like a natural inclination when you're pushing against things. So that's fine. That's normal. Like,
and in our own spaces, we are pushing against something, but we've also created our own norms, right? So we've also, there is I went to college Black look. There is I am an academic revolutionary look. There is I'm a hood revolutionary look. There is I'm a hood nigga look. There are all these different looks that we see in each other, and we judge one another based on those looks. I was thinking about recently, I'm a certain type of Black girl, but there are all different types of Black girls that I haven't seen, even in the spaces that I navigate. Yeah. Like, okay, I'm on this platform. I haven't seen a girl who's got maybe a thicker eyelash situation than I have on this, because we look at that a certain way. Like, it's all these different things that we judge, and like even when we talk about like there's brunch boots and like who's the Blavity brunch crowd and all that shit. Like, there are all these different ways in which we judge one another that should, to me, is even more important in examining and breaking down those things and our comfort amongst one another, to me more so sometimes than the way in which white people engage with us, because they're going to hate me regardless.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a given. It doesn't matter what you're going to do, they're going to hate you. But like, as far as like intra-community, how we treat each other with these things,
we should be safe together.
We should be.
Yeah. And I find myself, even like in the community that I've created, being like, on the last video I sat down and recorded, I was wearing a long straight wig, and somebody commented, "This is the most attractive you've ever looked."
Oh.
And I commented, it was an older woman, and I commented back and I said, and the comment was really long and she said lots and lots of nice things, but it started with, "This is the most attractive you've ever looked." And I said, thank you so much. I appreciate the love, but I just want to let you know the politics of telling a Black woman that she looks most attractive with long, straight hair. When I've had all kinds of hairstyles, braids, kinky hair, short hair, it looks bad. And also for me, it reinforces stuff that I'm trying to undo.
Yeah.
So like, let's just be cognizant of the stuff. I know you mean well. You're trying to give me a compliment, but let's just be cognizant of the stuff that we are saying to each other, even when you mean well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of those sideways. Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened a lot. Where like, oh, I like your hair like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, bitch, I didn't do this for you.
Yeah.
Like, just say you like it and move on. Like, this is not for you.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna like, because you like this, continue doing this.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most annoying kind of backhanded compliment you can like give.
There's somebody in our circle of like, niggas who know niggas or whatever, who sees me everywhere, never speaks to me. We're in this one space and my hair was finally in a manner, I guess, that they were comfortable with. It was a way I hadn't had it before. And this time was, oh, hi, I love your hair like this. Like it was like I don't know if that was why they were speaking to me or what, but it was like, now I'm comfortable with you. Now you're acceptable. Now like this, I know it's still like white colored, but this I can handle. And that is like, just don't talk to me.
Just don't say it. Just keep it in.
If you don't want me, then don't talk to me.
So do y'all still have to kind of navigate feeling better when your hair is a certain way? Like if your hair is done versus undone?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I do, but in a sense of, I think my definition of done has changed a little bit more. So it's like, just like, do I like what I see? Not so much like, is this done? Yeah. In the sense of like, kept or put away and stuff like that. Like I did like a little Instagram video a while ago, really short, but it was just like, I don't do my edges like that. Like I don't every day, like no, I'm not doing it like that. And I just feel like that's too much stuff on that little bit of hair every day. So I don't, but like to me my hair is still done. Yeah. I like the way I look, my hair is still done. There are times where I don't like what the way my hair looks, and that's when my hair is not done. Right. If that makes
You're pleasing yourself, not the world.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I changed that definition of what done was versus what I thought before. Yeah. So it's helped me with that.
Constantly challenging like ourselves. Constantly challenging, okay, I don't feel comfortable with this look. Why? Is it because I just don't like my hair this way versus that way? Or is it because of some type of white supremacy? Is it because something is curling? Like there are, I feel like, certain markers of white supremacy or alignments with whiteness that we can find in ourselves. And so I really just try to analyze, if there's something about me that I'm uncomfortable with, is it because it falls outside of some norm that I was taught is the norm, is the standard or whatever? Or maybe it's just like, no, I don't like wearing that color or wearing this style of, accessory or whatever,
I noticed for myself though, like when it comes to hair, that I prefer my hair when it's like, I guess, messier. I prefer my hair a few days after, like if I get braids or whatever, I always like it a few days later. I never like it when it's just like tight. I've never liked my hair in that way. So that could be why it's a little easier for me to kind of detach from those things, or what my idea of what done is. I was never a girl who like needed my hair to be neat, away, this, that. I was never that type of girl. I haven't grown into be that kind of woman. So it's probably a little easier for me to see done as this different thing, or transform that word done into something else, because that's not ever how I kind of flowed with that anyway,
Okay, so I also wanted to talk about weaves and wigs, and how is there still stigma attached to weave and wigs? It's so funny that despite the fact that it's everywhere, including on every white celebrity imaginable, including on every black celebrity imaginable, I still feel like I see comments about people, the ball, do you have hair comments, and raggedy men on Twitter being like, ladies, we don't like the wigs, and it's
there it is. Well, raggedy men on Twitter. You said it. That's the answer.
That's what it is.
Raggedy men on Twitter, and even men who you don't think are that raggedy, holding those same beliefs, or sharing those things, or not checking their friends and things like that. And unfortunately, even in queerness, there are. I'm speaking as somebody who's not queer, but I have noticed that. Just a general thing with masculinity. Like, it doesn't have to be that you're trying to be attractive to a man. If you're trying to be attractive to somebody who is masculine or perceives femininity a certain way, it's like femininity is this one thing, and it is often not being a bald head scallywag. And, can you stretch your hair? And all that stuff that we talked about earlier, length and all of that aligning with whiteness in a certain way. And there are, even amongst, I would say, womanist or black feminist Twitter or social media, a lot of us don't want to be perceived as unlikable, right? So we will let our popular social media man friends say whack shit and get away with that shit like it's okay. And we know that these niggas only like women who are a certain type of black woman. Right? But don't fuck with everybody. No. And it's still be whole black women with black feminists in their whole bio who are co-signing a known person who hates black women.
And a lot of them were not cool kids. Well, so they're still trying to
a separate conversation. But you're not points were made.
Yes, there is a thing of reassembling as an adult a clique in order to make up for
the stuff that was lacking or may not have been afforded as a child.
And it comes out every time somebody.
But those be the raggedy men too.
Yep.
That's the raggedy men. And like, I want to just jump back to that, but a lot of them don't understand women's grooming care. And like when I date men who get it, they usually like have seen their mom's wigs hanging up. It's just like they've seen what it is, so it ain't no thing. Right. But these raggedy men who don't like fucking know like anything about us, but just that they want to put their penis in us. It's usually those motherfuckers.
And then there's such a freedom, as somebody who dates men, there's such a freedom in like being myself. There's such a freedom in, and let's be the same thing with the way that we engage with whiteness. There are losses, right? So there are white people who don't fuck with me or hire me because I look a certain way. Absolutely. There are men who won't fuck me or date me because I look a certain way, and I'm okay with that. Because the real thing becomes, why would you want those people in your space anyway? Why is masculinity, why is manness, why is malehood so valuable to you as a woman or as a person who is dating men that you're willing to sacrifice yourself? And that's what I won't do. So there was a long time when I was wearing wigs, and if I was spending the night at a man's house or whatever, I would have that shit pinned down. And I'm like, this is the wig I'm sleeping in tonight. Because I was not, and I'll look cute, and I can fuck in it, and all of that. And it was like, because he's not about to see me in my cornrows. Like, we're not there yet. But now, at this point, we know this is a wig. Not this, it's not a wig. But we know this is a wig, and I'm going to hang it on the doorknob, and we're going to go to bed in my cornrows, because that's who I am.
Y'all hardly wash your asses.
They hardly spread their butt cheeks.
And I'm going to be like freaking out about my wig.
Absolutely not.
In the room.
It's so fun. I had a similar kind of conversation with Sonia Renee Taylor, and it is about being comfortable, being alone for a little bit. Maybe not forever. I believe there's somebody out there for all of us, but it would require not only saying no to somebody who you think would uphold a certain kind of narrow standard, who holds these ideas about what beauty is and what femininity is and will project that onto you, but also being comfortable being maybe not picked first, maybe passed back, and that's hard, especially when we are socialized to view our value as being in connection to a partner. When the most celebrated and supported thing a cisgender straight woman can do is partner a man. It is hard to say it's okay.
Which is perfect. It's so good.
Yeah, people don't get it. Like, you make me think of a conversation I had with my mother recently. So my mom's divorced, whatever. And I grew up Muslim, this background for me. Just my mother started going to the mosque again just because she just wants to be around other Muslims. And everyone is like, did you get remarried? Like, that's the first thing. My mother's like, why would I do that? I've had my kids. I got a career. Like, why would I need to do that again? But it was just like, they just couldn't imagine that this woman was like living without a partner. And it was just like, and my mother's like an older, like, what? It was just weird to me that was the first question they asked after not seeing her for like years. Are you married again?
And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Is like, how do we dismantle all of this? And when you talk about our partnering with men or becoming partnered, there's this thing, like, I always talk about how I don't like wedding culture. Right? And a lot of it has to do with online stuff. And that doesn't mean don't celebrate your love and do all those things, but a lot of it is, are we taking the perfect engagement pictures? Am I valuable now?
We see each other. Yes.
Am I valuable now, now that there is a picture of me in the wedding?
Now. Yeah. That's what it all is.
All of that stuff.
I hate the ring picture. People call me so bitter about this.
I don't like
the whole wedding culture is really disturbing to me. I really do value partners celebrating each other.
Yes.
And get the biggest ring. If that's what you want to do, that's cool. But so much of it has to do, not even the proposal videos, so much of it has to do with like sharing this moment with the world and like what somebody did for me or what I did because I am such a man for my partner. It's like ends up being all about those things and not really about whatever people say love is. And I really think that it's harmful for us, even men. We know that like men don't like to talk about like their clock and like their getting married, but we know as people who fuck men, we know that they are thinking about getting married. They're thinking about all of that shit. And so even for them, just that performance online, I think is really damaging to us as people. It's very classist. That doesn't mean that if you can afford to have a lavish wedding, not to have it. But I think the ways in which we share those things and the ways in which expectations are set are just really, it can be really negative. And I think all of these things tie in.
It is burdensome. And like you said, I love a wedding. I think I value weddings now as a place where we can come together with your friends and family and celebrate you, celebrate y'all's partnerships together, celebrate the coming together of families. However, there is all that other bullshit, and then there's the father giving you away to your partner.
It's just
and
all
that
really
stuff.
It's like
and then the financials. But okay.
No, I'm gonna head out.
The other thing about weaves and wigs I wanted to talk about was over the past year or so, I've been reading more and more articles about some of the ethical concerns of wearing weaves and where that hair comes from and where it goes, how much the women who give the hair are paid or not paid. And I'm just trying to think through some of how can I ethically wear weave or ethically wear wigs, or am I just gonna have to like compartmentalize it and just put that in the box over here?
This makes me think of something that I say often on our show, is just like, how ethical can a marginalized person be? How much basically just that, like, how ethical can you be as a marginalized person? Because the way capitalism works, it's just really, really, really hard to just like 100% completely remove yourself from that shit. And I think that a lot of times the focus is on the consumer, or we put it on the person, and it's like, that's something to me that we should look at that system of how they pay people and like all of that stuff. That's generally how I interact with that, because I don't know how to recycle the hair that I'm using. I don't know, like I don't have the tools to make these things ethical, or to make me feel more involved in the ethical exchange of these goods. I don't know how to do that. So like,
I'm not there yet either. I typically wear synthetic hair, so I'm not wearing human hair, so that piece of it I'm unfamiliar with. But I do worry about, which has come up as a concern, like what happens to our hair, how we recycle our hair. What I try and do is, even with synthetic hair, like wash it and reuse it. So like there are ways you can like, I can take this out and like soak it in like fabric softener, soap and shit like that, and reuse it, which I often like wear my hair over again a few times. But yeah, finding solutions for like recycling that. The other piece of that is because we like don't matter. Who's working on that tech? Right. You know what I'm saying? Who's working on figuring out how do we recycle our hair? Right? Who is that important to? They won't even make the recycle machines tiny enough to fit the straws.
Right.
Straws or plastic bags. They can't take those.
It can be done.
So they're going to tell me not to have a plastic straw rather than create a machine that can recycle straw.
I don't know, but I agree that those are things that we should be thinking about. But I do feel like, which is actually something that Queen and I had discussed in private before, Queen mentioned it, but that because Black women are often so demonized, the things that we do for pleasure, the things that we find Black joy in, it's a problem. So it's like, if they would just stop spending their money on hair, if they would stop anything that we delight in is considered frivolous and like some shit that we shouldn't be doing. And so if you always stop that, everything will be fine.
Because all we're supposed to do is labor. Like, we're only supposed to labor for other people. We're not supposed to do anything else that is like for us. So anytime we do, it's like a problem. So if Black women just stop doing this, or even our interaction with the beauty industry and the makeup industry is just like, if you would just be natural, then
I hate those statistics of like Black women spend $9 billion on their hair every month. Imagine if we all bought houses. But I'm like, I'm not buying a house with my weave money. I'm sorry. It's just not.
I'm sitting in my house looking dry.
It's just not.
It's ridiculous because the beauty industry, period. is a market that makes all these billions of dollars, even excluding black women from that number. So like, shut the fuck up.
It's an extension of the welfare queen.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. The looking into that hasn't stopped, and the framing of that hasn't stopped. Our friends, Brunch and Budget, who do like financial management and have those conversations, they were talking about the ways in which people look at data and the way they look at data about finances. So instead of looking at data and doing further research to discover the reason why our money looks like it's going to these different things, they look at that data and ascribe personality to it and ascribe, well, it's because of this and it's because of that, when those things are often not even the case. You know?
Unfortunately, it does just feel like the reason why black women so often are poor, I mean, we see all of these data points about the average black woman has a $5 net worth and all that stuff. It's not because of weed.
No,
it's not because of makeup. And instead of addressing the real reasons for why we are structurally disadvantaged in financial markets, y'all want to talk about me going to the beauty salon every 2 weeks.
If I saved all the money that I spent on hair,
you could buy a coat.
I would still be the same bitch. But the same, you know what I mean? I would still have
student loans.
Yeah. All those same things would still exist. None of that would change.
But if we explored those things, if we explored the actual reasons, then people would actually have to talk about white supremacist patriarchal capitalism, and nobody wants to do that, because how can you maintain the system if we're actually talking about the system? You know, nobody ever wants to talk about the system. It's always what you could do, what you should do. It's the individual shit, which is a very Republican and white supremacist concept. That's
that bootstrap shit.
That bootstrap shit.
Right.
Just all of this is your fault. Right. Stop buying that weed.
Right. All right, so I do want to make sure, I mean, we're talking about all the traumas that are associated with our hair, and there are many, but there's also a real joy and celebration in the culture that black women have with our hair. And I did just want to make sure to talk about that a little bit, because I love, one of my favorite things now that I've been experimenting for the past, 7-8 months, and like, there is a real pleasure in being like, what am I going to do with my hair? What's the next thing going to be?
Yes. It feels great. It feels great. There was this period, I think, maybe at the height of Ferguson or a little bit after, where we were more like in the streets and protesting and shit like that. And that heaviness was such like an ever-present thing, where we would be like, okay, well, let's go to the hair store and then go get crab legs. Like, that was our routine. All right, we went to the hair store. Meet me at the hair store. We walk around.
We have a hair store.
Crab legs. Like, there are a bunch on 125th, but we have a place we go to. We meet there. We get lost in there. We look at the wigs. We see what kind of new hair they get. Maybe we buy something. Maybe we just window shopping, and then we eat crab legs. But yeah, I think that people underestimate while they are judging all the ridiculous or not ridiculous, like fun things that black girls do, they are not taking into account all of the bullshit that we deal with, that your average default white person is not engaging with. That's not to say white people don't have problems, but we have those problems and black girl problems and girl problems, and, you know, if we're queer or disabled or whatever our intersection is, mental health stuff or whatever. And so it's important that we have outlets for those things. And I think sometimes it's important that we have outlets for those things that are our own. Like, I think that the safety of a beauty salon, or the safety of being at your homegirl's. Queen has done my hair. Like, being at your homegirl's house, getting your hair done.
I don't feel safe at beauty salons.
Talk about it.
I don't feel safe at beauty salons, because that's usually where a lot of my hair care was in my house. So then when I did start going to beauty salons that were, I live in New York, so a lot of women get hair done by like Dominican folks. So there's that.
That's not the salon that I meant.
I know, I'm continuing. And then there's like the black women beauty salons where they're telling me my hair is too thick, or that's, those things are happening. So it's not until my mother found like one person who did our hair. She did our hair from maybe like junior high until I was like 24, 25, she was doing my hair. That was the first time I felt safe. But she wasn't a black person who was in hair politics in that way. So I haven't really, outside of that, felt safe in salons. I don't have those stories that most black women have when it comes to like salons.
The same way that people who have to get their hair barbered, the barbershop can be an antagonistic space. Yeah, I understand that.
Even within my queer experience, so just hearing like women, I guess just like put men center in that way. There's always something that was just like, that's not okay. You know, like stuff that just didn't like. And when I'm young, I'm not realizing what that is, like why I don't quite fit in this space. But now as a woman, I know what that was. But for me, like beauty salons wasn't really that.
I really never thought about how so much of beauty salon banter is male centered. It is. I was just getting my hair done. And for those 2 hours, I hope she don't watch this. But for those 3 hours, it was, girl, really? He didn't what? What's going on?
Yeah, I will say I guess there is an element of like nostalgia that I have, because I haven't been in a beauty salon in a long time. But the things that, it's like church. I will never go back. But I have nostalgia. There are moments. There's family there. There's community there. I do go on the holidays because that small storefront that I grew up in are my family. So there is there's culture. Even if not safety, there is culture at the beauty salon. But I will say I find safety in my homegirls doing my hair. Somebody I know doing my hair.
I'm more of a in the living room type of.
It is. I mean, there's so many like iconic images of black women in beauty salons. I mean, I don't know if everybody considers this to be iconic, but I think of like the Destiny's Child Bills video, where it's like it's a celebration of Miss Tina's salon, and they gossip into each other and all of that. I mean, I never thought about this until you just brought it up. But for some of us, it is different.
You know, I feel like the older a lot of us get, the less we like people. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, when you brought that up, I can't imagine sitting in a beauty salon and listening to everyone's
That's true.
stuff.
Yeah, I used to like, and I didn't know what it was as a kid. And I was a nosy little child who wanted to be in grown folks' business. So it wasn't that. It was just like this. I don't just
because now
like, I don't
now that I'm grown, if I'm sitting here, do I now have to challenge, you know, Aunt so and so's or Miss so and so's homophobia or whatever? I do that at Thanksgiving. I gotta do that here.
Yes.
I don't think I want to.
Yes.
I can't.
But you were talking about black hair joy.
Sorry. Trauma. But anyway, it is important. As people who obviously engage with a lot of trauma, that trauma is specifically due to our blackness and other intersections. It's important that we delight in whatever our joys are, that we indulge in those things, and don't fall victim to, I don't want people to see me doing this, or I don't want like, you know, there is like, when I was going to the hair store a lot, there is a lot of like shit surrounding that, just walking up and down 125th Street. And men asking, you know, the men vendors on the street, that's your hair? That's your hair? Somebody said to me in the store yesterday on 125th, sis, you do your hair by yourself? And I was walking, I was like, I have help. But I was walking on, I wasn't engaging with him or thinking this is going to turn into a thing. He's like, yeah, it looks all right. I'm like,
oh my God.
I didn't ask you anything. I didn't ask you anything. But just, ignoring that, turning that down into like, what makes me feel good? What's fun? What's, you know, I bought I knew I was going to meet you. I bought more hair jewelry. Like what, that made me feel good. I like that. So just, I think as we are constantly challenging white supremacy in ourselves and other isms within ourselves, we also have to allow ourselves to find joy and indulge in whatever joy is and looks like for us.
Allow it to be a joyful experience, because there is a situation where your hair becomes a burden, and it's like, what are they gonna think? What color, you know? But like tapping into, this is fun. I get to play, I get to experiment, I get to connect with ancestors by the stuff that I'm choosing to do to my hair. Like, it really can be genuinely joyful.
Yeah, it is. I know for myself, changing my hair so much is a part of my hair joy. Like, that is, and then like when I first started to like play and start making wigs and stuff, my mom is like, you know your grandmother used to make wigs. You know, like, so it's just like all of these things that I just see kind of like me affirming myself in ways that I didn't attach to my hair before, but that I do now, you know?
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Like I said, I love your podcast.
Thank you.
It's fun. Y'all have great chemistry. You choose good things to talk about. Y'all don't have crazy politics. I love it. Okay.
Well, they're crazy to some people, but they're crazy to you.
Well, not to me. Right. Not to my black feminist stuff. All right, so where can we go to listen?
We're on wherever you listen to podcasts. Oh, hi. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud. Wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, Tea with Queen and J is there. Just search Tea with Queen and J. You can also visit teawithqueenandj.com. And that's tea like drinking tea. Well, this is to answer the phone.
Yeah.
Drinking tea.
Look, maybe you drink tea that way.
Anyway, teawithqueenandj.com. We're also on all social media at teawithqj. We're on Twitter and Instagram there, and you can find us on Facebook and Tumblr, Tea with Queen and J.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. Hit me up on Instagram or Twitter. Buy some merch. This is a merch shirt. Read more bell hooks. Buy some merch at shopforharriet.com. Shout out to all the patrons. There is an after show up on Patreon right now. I appreciate all of the patrons. Thank you guys so much. That's it. I'll see you later.